the 12 years that I've been here entertaining you on television. Welcome to Hot Topics, Sharina Hudson.
Okay, hold up for a second. Not Sharina Hudson trying to blame Wendy Williams for all her struggles when Wendy's over here just trying to heal and get better. The last couple of years have been tough for Wendy. She's been dealing with health issues and had to step back from the public to focus on herself. We all miss her, the queen of gossip and media, but honestly, the person who probably misses her the most is Shireena. Ever since Wendy cut off the money flow, Shireena and Kevin have been scrambling, and don't get me started on their relationship, it's on the rocks. They're barely living together anymore. When Shireena first got involved with Kevin 15 years ago, Wendy was on top of the world. But now it's all falling apart. They stopped talking back in 2010 when Kevin got upset over some drama involving his mistress, Shireena. Can you believe that? A grown man from Brooklyn, no less, upset because he thought I was trying to set up his side chick with one of my friends. That's a whole mess. I've never had an issue with Wendy though. In fact, I've always had a lot of sympathy for her. She's been through so much, and the way she's handled herself despite all the personal battles is something I can genuinely respect. Wendy is a strong woman, no one can deny that. She built a career from the ground up, creating an empire and dominating the media scene for decades, but along the way, things took a turn. Her health started to deteriorate, and she had to step away from the public eye to focus on herself. For someone who was once so larger than life, it must have been an incredibly difficult adjustment. I can't imagine how it felt to go from being the queen of gossip and media, the one who called the shots and had the world at her feet, to being sidelined by health issues. Despite all of that, she's still fighting. She's still trying to heal, and that takes a lot of strength. I've always respected that about Wendy. And when it comes to Kevin, well, he's the one I have issues with, not Wendy. Kevin's always been a complicated character in my eyes, and I think Wendy got the short end of the stick. Kevin never took the time to explain himself to Wendy. When he started pulling away, when he went distant and stopped communicating with her, he never sat down and had that honest conversation about why. If there was a reason for it, he wasn't being truthful about it. Instead, he played games and left Wendy in the dark while she was already dealing with her own personal challenges. That's the thing about Kevin, he's always been a man with a lot of baggage, and rather than owning up to it, he chose to drag others into his mess. Unfortunately, Shireena in this case got caught up in all of it. For years, Kevin and Shireena were living the high life, and it was all thanks to Wendy's hard work and success. Wendy was the one who was out there hustling every day, making a name for herself and securing financial stability for everyone around her. Kevin, on the other hand, didn't seem to have the same level of ambition. He was living off Wendy's success, using her resources to fund a lifestyle that wasn't exactly his to begin with. There's no denying that Kevin has had a taste of luxury, but it was all built on Wendy's hard-earned money. And let's be honest here, Kevin wasn't exactly using that money to build a future for himself or his family. No, he was buying all sorts of things for Shireena, things that were designed to keep her happy, but not necessarily things that would help her in the long run. Kevin bought Shireena a Ferrari, for example, a flashy car, something to show off, something to make a statement. He also bought her expensive jewelry, the kind of stuff that's meant to symbolize wealth and status. But when it comes to real, lasting investments, Kevin didn't exactly come through. Instead of using his resources to build something that would support them in the future, he was throwing money into projects that didn't have much substance. Shireena had a clothing line, sure, but it didn't really go anywhere. Then there was the vegan restaurant that he helped fund, but that didn't exactly make it either. Both ventures fizzled out, leaving Shireena with a few failed businesses and a lot of empty promises. At the end of the day, all of these luxuries, these expensive items and failed ventures were all funded by Wendy's hard-earned cash. It's clear that Kevin wasn't doing anything to secure his own future or his family's. He was relying on Wendy to do that for him, and it wasn't just a short-term thing, it went on for years. And it's not just about the material things either, it's about the mindset. Kevin, in a lot of ways, took Wendy's success for granted. He saw her as a source of income, a way to live the ideal life without ever really having to put in the effort. He didn't seem to have a backup plan or any sense of financial independence. If anything, he was dependent on Wendy for his lifestyle, and when that began to slip away, it's clear that he didn't know how to handle it. As much as he tried to portray himself as being in control, the reality is that he was living in the shadow of Wendy's success, and when that started to change, it threw him into a spiral. But what gets me is how all of this is now coming to a head. Shireena, who was supposed to be living this dream life with Kevin, is starting to see the cracks in the facade. She might have been caught up in the glamour and the high life, but the reality of Kevin's financial instability is starting to hit home. The luxury cars, the jewelry, the failed businesses, they were all temporary fixes. And now, as the dust settles, she's left with the consequences of a man who never really had his life together to begin with. She's starting to realize that her relationship with Kevin isn't as stable as it seemed, and that she was, in a way, living in an illusion. The illusion of success, of wealth, of stability, all of it was propped up by Wendy's money, and without that, it's all falling apart. I don't blame Shireena for being in this position, but I do feel for Wendy. She didn't deserve any of this. She built an empire, and instead of receiving gratitude and respect, she got dragged into a mess that wasn't hers to begin with. Now, Wendy's fighting her own battles with health and finances, while Kevin and Shireena are left to figure out how to survive without her support. Kevin's recklessness has cost them all, and it's hard to watch. Ultimately, Wendy deserves a lot more respect than she's gotten. She's been through the ringer, and it's time that people start acknowledging everything she sacrificed, not just for her career, but for the people she cared about, like Kevin and Shireena. For years, Wendy was at the top of her game. She built her empire from the ground up, navigating the cutthroat world of entertainment while maintaining a sense of authenticity and boldness that few could match. Her career wasn't just a job for her, it was her passion, her identity. She gave everything to it, but in the process, Wendy also gave up a lot of personal things, time with her family, her health, and at times even her peace of mind. People often forget that behind the public persona, Wendy was a woman who had to juggle the pressures of fame, the demands of her career, and the complexities of her personal life. For years, she worked tirelessly, day in and day out, pouring her energy into a career that demanded perfection. All the while, she had a family to care for, including Kevin and Shireena. Despite the complications in her personal life, she always tried to hold everything together. She took on more than most people could ever imagine, and it was all for the people she loved. Yet, instead of receiving the appreciation she deserved, she ended up with betrayal and abandonment. Wendy's sacrifices weren't just confined to the public eye. People often focus on the glamorous side of her life, but few truly see the emotional toll of living in the spotlight. The constant scrutiny, the personal invasions, the false narratives spun about her, it was all part of the price she paid for success. Her life, once so vibrant and full of potential, became one of constant pressure. But even with all of that weighing on her, Wendy kept moving forward. She never quit. She never let her struggles define her. She kept working, kept pushing, because she knew that the only way to make it through was to keep fighting. And yet, despite all her resilience, she's never been given the credit she truly deserves. It's also heartbreaking to think about how Wendy's relationships with people she trusted, like Kevin and Shireena, have played out. She didn't just build a career for herself, she built a life that was meant to provide for the people she loved. She went above and beyond to ensure that Kevin and Shireena had the best of everything, even at the expense of her own happiness and well-being. And in the end, she was left to pick up the pieces of a broken relationship, a shattered trust, and a life that had been derailed by others' choices. Instead of being met with gratitude, Wendy was faced with deception and betrayal, things that no one should have to experience, especially not from those closest to them. She deserves better than what she's been given. Wendy deserves the respect that comes with being an incredibly talented, hardworking, and resilient woman. She deserves recognition for everything she's been through and everything she's overcome. People need to start seeing Wendy not just as the figure they've come to know through the media, but as the woman who has fought through adversity, who has been knocked down and gotten back up time and time again. Her strength and resilience are qualities that should be celebrated, not ignored. Wendy is a survivor in every sense of the word. She's been through the worst, but she's always come out on top. She's stronger than most people realize, and I hope one day the world will truly see her for what she is, a woman who's been through hell and still managed to rise above it all. It's time for people to acknowledge Wendy's incredible journey and the sacrifices she's made for her career, her family, and her own personal growth. She deserves nothing less than the recognition and respect she has so tirelessly earned. But let's be real, Kevin never had a real backup plan. He doesn't have a degree, no real job experience, and no retirement savings. He was just living off of Wendy's success. And it seems like Shireena thought she was set for life, but now things are crumbling. Kevin even went to court in 2022 asking for his alimony payments to restart, claiming he couldn't afford to live without Wendy's support. He was behind on bills and facing foreclosure on his home, but the judge didn't buy it and told him that Wendy has her own problems to deal with now. Now, Kevin's home is up for sale, and it seems like Shireena packed up and left, taking their daughter and heading back to her mom's place. She hasn't put Kevin on child support yet, but it's not like he can even pay her if she did. Honestly, Shireena's probably better off selling those Chanel bags Kevin gave her than waiting for any support from him. It's a mess. Kevin keeps trying to drag Wendy and everyone else involved with her case, even though her health is getting worse. Her dementia is progressing, and now her finances are being controlled by her legal guardian. Kevin is still fighting to get some money, but things aren't looking great for him right now. His financial troubles just keep getting worse, and it doesn't seem like he's going to be bouncing back anytime soon.